Have you ever noticed how we converse normally? Have you ever observed when our conversations fail? When do conversations result in positive responses? We would consider a conversation to be a good conversation when the elements of listening and speaking placed on solid foundations of dignity and respect. A true conversation takes place only in the context of a true relationship, an either relationship, as philosopher Martin Buber would name it. An either relationship is one in which the other is not an object to be used, but a subject to be loved and cared for. Spiritual conversation could be understood in these lines, namely, treating the other with love and care, and listening intently to what he or she says or is wanting to say. Spiritual conversations are spiritual not so much in their content, but in the quality of listening and responding. The Ignatian method of spiritual conversation lies, first, in a deep listening to the other, becoming aware of one's conditioning arising from attachments, personal opinions, prejudices, stereotypes, and one's own ego. Setting aside these and actively listening not just to the words spoken, but also the interior movements of the other's experience or knowledge, or what in Ignatian tradition is called as felt knowledge. Second, in a deep conversional experience while listening to the other. Such a conversion cannot take place when one listens only from the head. Conversion takes place when one listens with their heart. Listening with the heart is the way of God, who listens not to our words, but to our yearnings behind our thoughts and words. Third, in a deep longing for the kingdom in and through the act of listening. This deep longing is characterized by attempting to hear the voice of God in the other, so that when a situation arises to decide, such decisions are then taken only for the greater glory of God and nothing else. Fourth, it is also characterized by the one who speaks, after listening to the voice of God, reverberating within his or her heart. One need not speak to impress the listener or listeners around them, but rather to become the voice of God in that conversation. Fifth, in respecting the listener and thus by speaking slowly, intentionally, being aware of the presence of God in that conversation. When this Ignatian method of spiritual conversation is used instead of debates and discussions, there arises better clarity, better discernment, and above all, better relationships for the sake of the kingdom. If there is a spiritual conversation around an issue that needs a discernment, then there are certain processes to be followed. Deliberate rounds of conversations takes place, seeking consensus, clarity, and discerning the will of God. Normally, 3 rounds would do the magic, but if need be, there could be more depending on the need for further intent and intentional listening. The process begins with a silent prayer for a considerable time, meditating and then sharing his or her feeling and reflection over the concerned issue. The second round consists of sharing of what one heard from the others and was touched by them, and also getting in touch with one's own inner movements at that point of time, feeling either peace, joy, or sad, discouragement, etc. It's also a moment of sharing if new insights or perceptions have emerged due to the interactions. The final round consists of arriving at the consensus and then experiencing peace and joy and ending with a prayer. This method is truly practical and can be a useful tool to foster family or parish or corporate or community well-being. In this Ignatian month, maybe we could give it a serious thought and try. Why not?